So I am on with Michael Sonduck, and he has written this great article for this issue of Legacy Arts Magazine, which is issue 20 of the magazine. And it's all about charitable giving. So he has these 7 great questions that you have to ask yourself. And the title of the article is Before Giving a Dime, and it's these 7 questions that you ask yourself. Now, thanks for joining me, Michael, for this quick chat. Uh, we were just talking about his.
Well, I'm excited.
Sorry, go ahead. There might be a tiny bit of a delay, but anyway, Michael, thanks for joining me from beautiful San Diego, and Michael, in your article, you talk about heart, head, and hands approach. What do you mean by that?
I think it's a really, really comfortable way for people to think about their giving, Laura. And what I mean by it is that people who are involved in organizations that they support with their donations, and it comes from their heart. It comes from what they truly believe is most important, but they also apply their brain power to it. So they don't just go with what tugs at their heartstrings. They really think about how to make a difference. And then they actually get involved in their work. So one way to get involved is to give. There's at least 2 other very important ways to get involved, and that's to volunteer and to lead. And so people who combine their heart with their head and their actions always feel a whole bunch better about their philanthropy, their giving, than people who just do one or none of them.
Excellent. And I love this topic because I think a lot of times what happens with people is, when they give to charity, they just, it's almost random, right? It's whoever kind of comes to them or whatever causes come in contact with them serendipitously. But why do you think that is? I mean, why do you think people are more careful about their investments and, their businesses and things like that versus their giving?
I think it's really, it's a great question. So I'm old enough to remember a wonderful ad that was on television years ago when E.F. Hutton was one of the big brokerage firms. And the ad was a bunch of people standing around at a cocktail party, and it's overhearing one person say to the next person, well, E.F. Hutton says, and then everyone stops and tunes into the conversation. And what I think happens is word of mouth, both for people who invest and for people who give, is pretty important. Relationships are often the key driver of people's giving. So that when someone says, I'd like to do something about an issue, poverty or health care or some other issue or immigration or anything that they think is really important to them, often what they do is turn to people they know and say, well, what are you doing? And that's quite sufficient. That's how a lot of people make investment decisions too. They turn to somebody who is a friend of theirs who seems to be pretty prosperous and seems to be successful in the investment marketplace and say, well, what are you doing? Where have you put your money? What do you get? And so in both cases, it really gets a whole bunch better when you apply your head to it. When you use the data that's available to you on the investment side, when you use vehicles that help you analyze investments or have a professional advisor. The same is true on the philanthropy side. If you use the vehicles that are available to help you understand your philanthropic investments you're giving, you're going to be a lot more satisfied with the result than just taking somebody's word for it. So to me, you need to be careful in both aspects of your life and not just use one or the other.
Got it. And I love your article where you go into the specifics on how you figure out those metrics for your philanthropy. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people just don't know. I mean, investing, you've got a lot of metrics, but I think, philanthropy, you've got it's not only about it's a little bit harder to treat it exactly like a business. I mean, you've got to look at your social impact, you've got to look at your values, and how all of that is being conveyed through the money that you give. So anyway, so I love this article, and make sure to check this out. Again, it's called Before Giving a Dime, and it's issue 20 of Legacy Arts Magazine. And Michael, how do you work with families, or how do you help families with their philanthropy?
So the way I work is to connect with a family with wherever they are. So sometimes you have families and they've been giving for a long time as a family, and what they want to do is they have a specific issue. Either they're wanting to give in a new direction and they're wanting to learn more about that direction, or they're wanting to step up their game and become more effective. But other times, one of the big issues that I help families with is when you have an older generation and they're really ready to engage the next generation of the family in trying to figure out how to use family philanthropy to make a difference. And the big challenge there is often the values of grandma and grandpa are the same value of the grandchildren that they want to involve, but the actual giving can look really different. So grandma and grandpa care a lot about the community. They may care a lot about their faith-based organization, and they've always given in a certain specific way. But children and grandchildren may care just as much, but they want to give in a really different way. So you have to help the older generation create space for the next generation to move in and do things in a way that works for them. And you have to create a way for the next generation to learn from what the previous generations have successfully done without necessarily having to do it just their way. So a lot of it is good old-fashioned listening and creating mechanisms for people to talk with each other. We use some tools, sometimes actually simple flashcards or other things, to give people a safe space to talk about what's most important, and then to build a plan.
I love that, because you're using philanthropy as a platform to, of course, not only give, but also create more meaningful relationships within the family and continue on those family values. So that is excellent. So how do people find out about you?
They mostly find out about me by word of mouth, thanks to you and your interest in my article in Paragon Road and Legacy Arts. They'll find out a little bit more by reading that, which is really great. I don't do a lot of advertising, and I actually don't do a lot of public speaking about it. So mostly it's an opportunity for people who are interested, starting here in San Diego, but also from other communities where they know someone who knows someone. It's like all good helping relationships. People do this the very same way they do everything else. They ask, well, do you have a philanthropic advisor? Well, who do you use? Well, why do you work with that person? So that's pretty much how it works.
Well, good. Well, wonderful. Well, like I said, again, make sure to check out Michael's article. It's fantastic. And his bio is there. You can read about him. He's been doing this for years and years. And if you want to reach out to him, it's all there. So thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for asking, and thanks for inviting me to write the article. It was fun to condense my thoughts down to a really few words that would make a difference.
Yeah, of course. And I really enjoyed it, by the way. It's super helpful for, I mean, I've, been writing about this stuff and studying it, but I think it was just a very concise way to boil it all down and really bring out the important issues of what you need to consider when you're looking at, contributing. So it's just, I learned a lot from the article, so thank you.
You're entirely welcome. Well, when you're back in town, we should find a way to have lunch and catch up again.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Care.
Thanks, you too. If you're interested in passing your non-financial assets like your wisdom, your values, and your beliefs to your family and leaving a great impact on the world, make sure to grab a free subscription to our online magazine. Go to legacyartsmagazine.com and you'll see it there. In every issue, we interview fascinating people about their legacies, from Fortune 500 CEOs to artists to philanthropic leaders to best-selling authors. We also offer tips, guidance, and strategies for developing an excellent legacy of your own.